Today's youth need teachers, volunteers, and most of all, well, they need you. I'm Doug Edwards, and I'm going to be talking with real youth mentors and students to give you the knowledge you need to be the best youth worker possible. This is Youth Worker on Fire. Youth Worker on Fire, and today I've got Mike Matulia, and Mike and I have done some things together at Lake-Sumter State. He's the AD director there, and Mike's been in baseball and sports for a long time. In fact, we're talking about your book that you'd written on pitching and catching.
That was a while ago.
A while ago. And where were you when you did that?
I was at Miami-Dade College down in Kendall. Back in the early 90s. I had actually, when I was coaching, I actually was asked to speak several times on catching. That was my position when I was in college. Mm-hmm. And Charlie Green, who's a Hall of Fame coach, he was the head coach and I was his associate. So we got together and writing a book and wrote a book on pitching and catching as a combination, separate but yet uniquely tied together. So, but it was a fun project, and we've used it with some youth leagues, and even now I've talked to a guy a couple weeks ago that showed me two of his books from when he was down in Miami as a youth coach down there, and he moved up here, and it just so happened we crossed paths.
Oh, that's cool. I don't remember seeing a book on the combination of the two, other than yours, and usually have one on pitching.
And one on catching or one on every position,
right.
Yeah.
But
it was a fun project, though.
Yeah.
Had a good time.
So how long have you been coaching?
I actually coached for 25 years. This is my 30th year working in the educational field, sports. I started out as a graduate assistant like a lot of young coaches, and worked my way up. Became a head coach when I was 24 at Gordon College. I started out in the junior college system. That was my first head coaching position. In Georgia, and then I moved down here to Fort Myers, Edison, which is now Florida Southwestern. Mm-hmm. From Edison, I went to Miami-Dade, which was a great opportunity. I worked under Charlie Green, like I mentioned. We did the book project together. And from there, once Miami-Dade, they started a consolidation project of their colleges where they were just going to have one athletic program. We had three athletic programs down there at the North Campus, the Kendall campus, which was South Campus back then, and the New World Center, which was the downtown campus. Each of us had an athletic team. Wow. Our own sports program. So from there, I moved up here to Lake-Sumter, which was Lake-Sumter Community College back then in 1997. And I've been here since then.
Yeah, you have three campuses now, but I think your sports is all
in the Leesburg campus.
Yes. 24. I mean, so you were working with students at the age of 24. I mean, did you want to play pro ball? Did you?
Oh, of course, like every other kid that plays the major sports, baseball, basketball, and football. I always dreamed of that, and soccer, and whatever sports kids want to do, they always want to go to the highest level. But when you get into college, I went to the Citadel, and I had some really great professors that kind of laid it out there for me about the life that you live. Back then, professional baseball was a lot different than it is now. They had two drafts. They drafted in January and then also in the summer draft. It was a little bit different. College baseball wasn't quite what it is today. College baseball is very comparable to the minor leagues. The difference to me, when I was that age, you start thinking about being a coach and teaching school, and those were the things that I kind of felt were kind of where my path was going to lead me, and I thought that was great. Yeah.
Two of your sons played pro ball. I mean, Matt went to the Citadel as well, and both of them played in the pros in the minor leagues for a while, right?
Yes,
John as well.
Matt and John both played for several years. Matt actually, toward the end of his playing career, started going into the coaching path himself, and John chose a completely different path. He wanted to, he made it. Both of them made it to AAA, which is, the last step to the major leagues. And John, after he finished, John went out of high school. After he finished, he went into went back to college. So he finished up, and now he's actually going into ministry.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's fun. John is
okay, I didn't know
actually
about
going
that.
to divinity school.
Oh.
He's the team chaplain for the AA team.
Now that I did hear about.
Montgomery, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The Rays AA team is based in Montgomery, Alabama, and that's where he lives.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the team chaplain there.
Wow.
So.
Wow, that's great. That's great. And Jake's coming up. He's senior
And
this
Jake's
year.
coming up, yeah. So we got them all.
That's right. You know, and that says a lot. I mean, your sons love baseball. It's not like they, like you made them play. They love this thing. I mean, because there's no way they'd do some things they do. And I talked to Jake, and he's the same. This is part of his passion. That's a great legacy for a dad because they want to do it. It's not just because they had to. I mean, and sure, yeah, and you bring them up and you do what you do. My boys play baseball as well, and baseball's a real commitment. I think almost more of a commitment than a lot of sports. And a lot more time.
Yeah, well, the thing is, and people ask me this, you know, they always say, well, the reason your sons play is because you're a coach. Well, you know, my wife and I, when we were young, you know, we had to do everything that we could just to survive.
Yeah.
So she was trying to teach school, and I was coaching, and, you know, coaching back early in those early days at the community college level, you know, you had to have a full-time teaching load. You just basically got a stipend for coaching.
Right.
So, you know, when they were in school and, you know, even when they were growing up, I mean, if she was going to work, we couldn't get a babysitter. So she would drop them off at the field. I mean, I can remember taking them out on the mower and they were sitting on my lap and I'm mowing the grass. And, you know, back then we had this little swing that you crank up. And, you know, when I was mowing the infield or whatever, I put one of them in there and crank it up and start that swing going. And, you know, so you had to be creative. So they kind of traveled with me. They did a variety of things. So it was something that they grew up with, being around the guys and being in dugouts and, you know, and doing those things. And Jake, same way. I mean, if I wanted them to be around me and I wanted to be around them, I'd take them to work, basically.
Yeah.
So my wife, sometimes she would drop them off right after school. And they would bring their stuff out there and practice. You know, because it was about the same time, you know, 3:30 in the afternoon. She'd drop them off when we were at practice, and then I'd bring them home for dinner. And, you know, so it worked out.
To them, that was life, and they got to be with Dad.
Yeah, it was fun. And, they, you know, they played other things.
Yeah.
You know, I encouraged them to do other things and get involved. I used to take them with us when we did community service and different activities. So, you know, I mean, they just like being around other guys, and you know, we like having each other around. So, you know, it was fun. It was kind of, you know, there was things to do, and they were experiencing new things and finding out about the world. So.
Yeah, that's a big deal, and that's a great example for a lot of dads. A lot of times dads and sons don't get to spend the time together, and it's because, partly I think because we're not being creative, you know, sometimes. And that was a way to be creative, and there was times I remember dragging my kids around, my boys.
Yeah, that's right.
And my daughter wasn't as happy about that, but my boys were. I'd take them around the country sometimes. We'd take retreats. I'd take them to campuses occasionally. We'd stand on the sports fields when I was doing things for the teams and different things like that. So those things, I know what that does for your children, so it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's like going to FCA camp. I used to take them, you know. I can remember taking Coach Billings up there. He's now our head baseball coach, up to Black Mountain. And Jake was, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6. He wasn't very old, but I can remember us driving, you know, the 9-hour drive, 9.5-hour drive, and Jake was with us, you know, and I had to find things for him to do up there, and you know, I think you're right. I think that's part of growing up, is being around, you know, your parents, doing the things that they do. Yeah,
but you guys wanted your kids to be around. I mean, you loved them. I mean, there's no doubt. I've seen your wife with them. I've seen in fact, your mom and dad. Talk about a supportive family. Almost every major event that you've ever put on, I always see your mom and dad. So they're a great example of family.
When you have your family close by, I think you know, it's the support system's there. You know, not just for us, but for them as well. You know, they feel comfortable, and that's, you know, it's good things to have, good times, and it's good to have everybody around.
Tell me about people that are just kind of really debating. Do I really want to work with on a college level, or high school level, or do I want to work with students? Do I want to even volunteer in those areas? I mean, you asked me to volunteer for FCA chaplain. I had to think through it, even though that's what I do full time. And but it was another commitment of time, and one of the best things that happened to me.
Well, we were glad you did.
Yeah. So tell me about other people making decisions like that.
Sometimes I wonder too, if I have time to do those things. A lot of the mentors that and I'm sure you're the same way, busy people are successful people usually.
Yeah.
I mean, you find people that are busy and they don't have a whole lot of time. It's usually, those are the people you want to find to work for you or to ask.
Yes.
To volunteer.
Yeah.
It seems like it. People ask me about, oh, can you help out with this event or that? It's like, I'm already doing like all these other things, and you say, and then you kind of weigh the value of that thing, whatever the event is or whatever the cause is. Some of those things I think are ingrained in people. I think that you have to have a servant's heart first. And somebody said, well, I don't really like serving. I don't like doing that community service. I just don't. I said, well, if you do it and you get involved, sometimes some of these activities or these service type events that I participate in, and anybody, once you get there, the event does more for you than it does for what you're supposed to be doing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
A good example is the Miracle League. They just built the new field at Lake-Sumter Park. And, for years, they didn't have a place. So, I heard about it. I said, well, you can use our softball field on Saturday mornings. Well, our softball team, they took that in. I mean, they took that like that was their own thing.
Wow.
And they loved doing it. And the kids loved doing it. And then, you start inviting other people to participate. And it's, and some of these kids have severe handicaps.
Yeah.
And people are uncomfortable. But once they get out there, it's like, wow, this is great. And, they're getting a lot more out of it than the kids are.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's part of the stepping out of your comfort zone is saying, well, you may believe in the cause, but you're not really going to, I can't do that, this time. But,
right.
It just seems like people find time to do it. I'm always amazed at some of these people that, I hate asking some people to help with certain projects that I have.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But like you, I mean, I know you're busy, and there's other people, that are just super busy with all kind of projects. And sometimes I feel uncomfortable asking them. I really hate to ask them to help.
I do too. Been through that. I get it. Yeah.
But, and I always, it's almost like you want them to say no, so it doesn't make you feel bad.
Right.
But I think you have to, it's just a matter of, if somebody asks you to help, they're reaching out to ask for help, so I try to help them as much as I can.
Well, I tell you, and Mike, you're here today. You got plenty of stuff to do without being here. The people that are saying yes to these interviews in these next few days, because I've got a window of time, are people who are really busy. They're the ones saying yes. Yeah, absolutely, I'll make it. And the people who normally guard their time and don't really give out as much, they're finding it hard to find the time to do it. And
so maybe that is a formula.
There's a formula there, and I think it's those things that are in motion remain in motion, and people who remain in motion seem to find a way to pull things into the vortex. They're causing this energy. There's synergy that happens between a lot of us.
Sometimes though, you wonder. I think about some people that I know that they enjoy or they find joy in volunteering.
Yeah.
Or seeing somebody else happy. Sometimes when you get really, really busy, it becomes a job to you. And then you have to take a step back. I think you don't want it to be a job. You want it to be something that you really have a passion for.
Yes.
Because if it becomes a job, sometimes and I have felt this way, I'm sure you have too, you feel like the weight of this project or the weight of this activity is on your shoulders.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes, you want to sit back or step back. And a lot of people do this. They take a step back because they don't want to be in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. That's okay not to be in charge. But eventually they say, I can do it better. I can be more efficient or more effective.
Mm-hmm.
And then they take that step forward, and it just happens.
Yeah.
But, I have felt that way sometimes. I have felt like, boy, I can't do this anymore. It's just too much work. It's too much time. Why isn't other people helping? Mm-hmm. And then you sit back and you say, well, I shouldn't be acting like that. That's why you volunteer.
Right.
In the first place.
Yeah.
So it's tough, and I know there's a lot of people that do a lot of really extraordinary things in our world. Building houses in other countries. I have a little brother that takes a mission trip every year for spring break with his kids at his high school, and they go to Guatemala and different places and Mexico.
Wow.
And and you say, gosh, that's amazing that those kids do that, and they take time during their spring break to do that. And it's amazing.
Yeah, it is. The incredible thing though about coaching and about teaching on almost any level, and this is what I tell teachers. Coach, I haven't told you this. You're going to hear it now because you need to hear this, and that is, you're never paid what you're worth. You're worth so much more than you'll ever be paid, because everyone doesn't do. It's not that they can't. There's a lot more people who can do some of these things with students and for students, and there's people in the field that are not giving the care that it takes to nurture students and young adults to be all that they can be. Sometimes it is just a job to people, but there's rare people like you that are pouring themselves out, and they're not just pouring themselves out, but what I've noticed about you is you are what you ask people to be. And that's a big deal. You may not feel that way. A lot of times when we're in service like you are, you don't go, oh man, I wish I'd do better. Well, no. Us looking on the outside, on the outside looking in, see the sacrifice. We see the extra mile. You don't only go an extra mile, you go an extra 2 miles, an extra 5 miles some days. And some days it feels like, gee, can I just take a rest, right? But at the same time, those students, your coaches, which I know, you attract that type of person. Of course, Rich Billings and I, we've got to, I've been able to spend time with Rich over the years, and he absolutely respects you and sees you as a friend. I heard him say that in one of the meetings the other day, and those things don't just happen. They happen because of sacrifice. They happen because of passion and compassion for people. And that's why I think a lot of the things around you form and happen. And I see the same thing in your wife and your kids. They just,
well, I appreciate you saying that.
They're givers.
I appreciate that.
Your wife's name's Betsy, right?
Yes.
And she went to my alma mater, Appalachian State,
that's right.
which I absolutely love, App State. And you guys, did y'all meet up there? How did y'all meet?
We actually met when we were in high school.
Oh, okay, okay.
We both were in high school in the metropolitan Washington, D.C. area.
Oh.
But we didn't go to the same high schools. We actually met through baseball, believe it or not. Her brother and I played American Legion baseball together.
Wow.
So, and our high schools played one another and so forth. But that's how we met, through baseball. She happened to be in the stands. I was in the on-deck circle. And we were playing at the University of Maryland, and I looked up there, and later on I said, "Hey, whose sister's that up there?" So everybody goes out and looks. That's how it happened.
The rest is history,
That's right.
man.
That's how it happened.
Well,
Believe it or not.
tell you what, when it's the right one, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're going to see her.
And the funny thing about it is, she said she didn't go to many games.
Yeah.
She said that might have been the only game I went to that whole year. So it was meant to be.
That's right. It was that game.
But you mentioned something I wanted to make sure that I came back to about teachers. It's a well-known fact, and I'm gonna say teaching and coaching is the same, because I think a classroom teacher is a coach.
Yes. Yeah.
In all aspects, they're coaching a different sport, so to speak.
Yes.
But every one of us, every coach or every teacher, we're teaching life skills. I always tell my coaches it's survival skills.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I use that term with the players. I said, we're teaching you survival skills. When you leave here, whether it's the classroom, whether it's the playing field, it's under my direction. When you leave me, I want you to be able to survive. Survival is a pretty strong term, but
yeah.
We want you to learn that service is important for your survival in this society that we live in. If you want to make a difference, then by gosh, you're going to have to help some groups that need you.
Yeah.
Your physical skills, your mental skills, your psychological makeup, your character, your integrity, all those things are going to help you be successful outside of the classroom, outside the playing fields, outside the gym.
That's right.
And that's, I always tell our coaches, I want you to think about that when you're coaching, because everything that you say, everything that you do, your actions, they speak louder than the words sometimes that come out of your mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for saying that, because that's what people need to hear. Especially, we know that high school students will hear this podcast somewhere along the way, college students, as well as adults who are in the fields already, that are just something frustrating's happened. And if you stay in any profession that's people-oriented, there's going to be huge frustrations, and we all need to hear things like what you're saying right there to keep us going, because there's times you just don't want to go on.
Yeah, and I've been there. I've been in those, I think maturity has a lot to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that, when you sit down and start to evaluate where you are and where you're going, then you say, well, it kind of knocks you in the head. You say, well, why are you really doing this? You're not doing it for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the bottom line. I mean, you're not doing it for yourself.
Right.
Even though when you go and whether you're in missions or, with the church or some volunteer organization, the bottom line is if you go in with a bad attitude, you're not going to have fun.
Right.
And you're not going to have a good experience. But if you go in there saying that, what you're doing, I mean, if you think about the ultimate sacrifice, you're saying, I am giving somebody else an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's one way to look at it, to be positive.
Yeah.
And then the other way is, well, if I don't do it, who's going to do it?
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Youth Worker on Fire podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and tell your friends. Also, leave a comment and tell us what you think. Stay tuned for more informative episodes.